Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready to go there and back again on an unexpected journey into Middle Earth? Because that's what we're doing right now with Rings of Power, Episode 6. Sorry, Lords of Rings of Power, Episode 6. I am the Oathbreaker.
Lords of Ring?
Episode
Lords
5,
of-
by the way.
Episode 5.
The Lord
I'm
of the
all
Rings. The
Sorry,
Ring of
I'm
Power.
watching
What
some
show are
scary
we talking
movies
about
right
today?
now.
Andor, like the Dragon
Hobbit,
Show?
Return of the
Yeah.
King.
Endercast.
If there's a whip, there's a way. I am the Oathbreaker, Tress. Now I'm joined by...
The stable sweeper, Kirklin Patzer.
I am the Eye of Hope, Dylan Musk.
The Give It To Me Raw Taylor Field.
There's quite a few of Peter Jackson trilogy quotes today in that. Like, he said that. There's another... Oh, I meant to write them down, but I'm like, I shouldn't write these all down because I never know. Is it just them, like, talking in a script-wise, or are they specifically putting them in? Because there's, like, 3 lines in this one where it was just, like, a complete... Like, at one point someone says... I was there, Elrond. Now it says Elrond said Gandalf, but he was said the exact same words. I was there, Gandalf. Like it's very fun, but we're gonna talk about that obviously. Tons of stuff. We're in the just plethora of stuff going on with Andor, She-Hulk, Lord of the Rings, and House of Dragon. You also get a side quest every week. You get a newscast every week. I'll be home again tomorrow, so you'll be getting one more bonus. Travis told you so because why the fuck not? I'm home doing nothing other than taking care of sick, miserable kids. But you know what? That's what I'm here for.
Ooh.
And
You're taking
then,
time off to play the beta for Call of Duty. I know what you're up to.
God no. I have
Emily, you
no.
have to call in sick too.
I have no interest in paying amount of money for Call of Duty when I got it for free.
It's
but,
free. It's free. Come on. The
But
beta.
yeah,
Anyways.
no. But then and then you got Don't Worry Darling later this week. Taylor, where can they find that all?
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find it with your internet connection in the search bar. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerseCast is our Twitter, and GeekVerse is our Facebook.
So, ladies and gentlemen, head down the links below to get everything else that you need to know, where to find us, video, audio, and most importantly, head over to our Patreon because you can get episodes like this ad-free. You get other episodes early, and then you can also get some exclusive right now. We just put 4 exclusive episodes within a week, so that's pretty good depending on the tier. And right now, if you want to unlock all those, you should go and join the producer tier at Phase 4 because a big shout out to Aaron Brain, April Darkness, Smalley Biggs, and Joshua Wright, who's at that top tier. But not only would you unlock everything, not only would you get a shout out on the show, you'll be getting a shirt in the next 3 months, an extra life exclusive Lord of the Rings themed shirt, but you do have to join before September's over and be on there for the next 3 months. So you go look at that. All the details are on Patreon. Support us there or support us by heading over to Manscaped and use the podcast code GVPOD to get 20% off and free worldwide shipping. You support that, you support Patreon, or you listen to this feed. Everything that goes back in the podcast, we turn around and give back to you, everybody. So we appreciate the support, and we do this weekly, so there you go. Taylor Field, what did you think of episode 5? Happy Hobbit Day. Yes, Bo, happy Hobbit Day. I don't know, is it official Hobbit Day, or is it just every time Rings of Power,
I trust
Bo? Is
Bo.
it, but
No, it's September 22nd is Bilbo and Frodo's birthday. So.
Oh, there you go.
Happy
Happy
birthday to those
birthday
two,
to Bilbo and Frodo. Yep.
Yes, this episode, I found it to be entertaining that we got to see some more like storylines I felt weren't really focused on in the previous episode very much. So I'm glad we got to see some continuations and kind of like progress with our characters a little bit more. Unfortunately, though, I'm hitting a point where I almost feel like, gosh, like
Ghosts in the fucking room here.
I don't know if it's a bad thing or a good thing yet, but there's just a point when I get into like a certain point in the episode where I think, God, this really feels very long.
It's probably a bad thing. I feel like
probably
you would
a
be
bad
having
thing.
that thought if it was a good thing.
Yeah, like I'm enjoying what I'm seeing, but then it comes to a point where I have to like pause, go refill my water or something. I'm like, oh, I'm only like 40 minutes in. I thought I was like near the end or something like that, but not because I'm
That's
trying
near
to
the end.
get
You're
to
at
the
40
end.
minutes.
Out of like 100 or like 100 and no, like an hour and 12 minutes.
No, it's like
Yeah.
70 minutes because it's like an hour and 10.
Hour and
it's like,
10,
I think
one
it
hour
listed
and
at
something.
73 minutes
With
official.
credits.
Yeah, with credit, yeah.
So
Anyway.
I guess that's just the way the episode is. It's just kind of like making it feel a little bit more strenuous and like a little bit longer. But like I don't know if it's
It's because COD beta's out. That's why. You're like, I just want to get back.
yeah. It's super peculiar because I don't I don't feel this in other shows, so I'm wondering why am I feeling this with this? Because like I love Lord of the Rings, I love what I'm getting, but then maybe it's just the way that they're tackling these storylines. Maybe it's just the way they're jumping around quickly between all of them, and then some episodes it's a little bit longer. I'm not sure what it is. I need to kind of like put my feelers a little bit more and kind of gauge it properly, but it's not like a huge takeaway because I am loving what we're getting. I'm loving to see everything that's unfolding in this world to this point. And after last week's episode, this one definitely got to a climactic point that I'm super excited to see unravel as we, talk about it and get into further into this series now. So yeah,
Dilmas.
I see what you mean, Taylor, of the pacing. I feel like this show is very slow paced, especially these last couple episodes, which I am. I don't know. It varies, right, depending on like the scenes, the characters we're playing with, the stories. Because some characters I just eat all of it up, and other ones I'm like, yeah, this does drag a bit. And I mean, we come to Lord of the Rings expecting some big action sequences and stuff like that, but this show is doing that very sparingly. You'll get like, okay, here's a minute-long scene with some wolves, and then later in the episode you get like another minute of Galadriel doing some stuff. So overall, like of the like hour plus, you're getting like maybe 2 to 3 minutes of kind of action. The rest is maybe slower paced. So I think I see what you mean. Although for me, I feel like especially in the second half of this episode, it just was going up and up and up. I really love this episode. This might be my favorite episode so far. I just think there's some amazing writing this week around. I wrote down several quotes, but there's just a lot of really heartfelt scenes between characters, things that I feel like we've really built up to make these scenes feel believable between certain characters. So we've gotten to that point. And yeah, so I really enjoyed this episode. There's some things I have some questions on, some things I'm down to, do some more speculation on, of course. But yeah, I gotta say, I really, really enjoyed this episode. I was very happy because I feel like it was hard because the first two episodes, seeing it in theaters was like such a different experience than going back and watching it at home on my TV. It's been like a bit of a decline. Just it was hard to match that, but I felt like finally I'm like, oh man, I'm at the end of the episode. I'm as hyped as I was coming out of those first two episodes. So I'm glad to say that's the case.
Yeah, for me, I would have to concur there where I feel that this is my favorite episode. And I think that's a good thing for the show so far, where I think probably the most iffy on it when we started, and each week it's ramping up. And I feel last week was my favorite, but this week ended, again, I agree with you with the back half where the last 20 minutes, I'm getting really excited. I'm not wanting it to end, and I can't wait to see where we're going. And I didn't feel that at all through the rest of the episode. I think it is slowly paced at times, but even the first 5 to 10 minutes, it actually felt the most whimsical Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings trilogy-ish, which I really liked. So yeah, I've enjoyed everything that was in this episode. I think now we got to the point where the beginning had to do a lot of here's this person. I still think there's a way where you could have dropped one storyline back, but then again, there's some storylines where I feel like I was worried they were going to go a certain way and they haven't gone that way, or if they have, it's just been kind of more hinted at. So I think there was something quite dark in this episode too, which was like, I feel like even darker than anything we've seen in the Peter Jackson Hobbit or Lord of the Rings trilogy as far as just a situation goes. And I think that's kind of, I think the barometer of how far the show should maybe go, maybe a little bit more, but no, I really liked it. I have really no cons against this episode. I think everything is just flowing like a perfect river right now. It's going. I just can't wait to see, because now we got 3, 6, 7, 8. So we got 3 episodes left, and I'm very excited to see what these next, because I feel like they all set up to me their specific end goals of just for this season. So I feel like, okay, I can kind of see the end point, and I'm excited for each and every one of them, except for maybe the stranger, but that's kind of in a good way, because that's supposed to be kind of a mysterious situation and stuff like that. I couldn't tell you right now where we're going to end, but no, the show keeps getting better and better, and I'm very happy about that. I cannot wait for next week. So I thought this was a home run. This is definitely for me the best episode of the series. So Kirklin Patzer.
Yeah, I thought very highly of this episode as well. I don't know exactly if this is my favorite, because I just remember being extremely like high on those first 2 episodes, and it might have just been like because it was like, holy shit, guys, but like the show's finally here, like how you just get so hyped in that mindset. Because I definitely, like, I don't want to say like dipped a bit, but definitely like fell a little bit lower from where I was initially. But I think this episode was just there was a lot of great stuff in here, and this show is doing something where like I feel like I still don't fully know like a couple storylines how they're going, and that makes it really exciting because it's like, okay, I cannot wait for next week's episode. And the stuff that I kind of figured was going to be happening, I think all that is being handled like really well too. Galadriel remains to just be like my 10 out of 10 throughout the show. She's so fantastic, and she really got highlighted very, very well in this episode in particular. Oh, a couple times, but definitely there's a particular moment that I was just like, oh my god, this is so crazy. Like, this is totally what I wanted. So I was very, very happy with that. And yeah, like we're episode 9 total, I think it was.
No, I think it's 8.
Is it 8? Okay.
I can
So,
check the GV calendar.
well
but I'm
over the
pretty
hump
sure it's
now.
8.
So
Well
just
over that
seeing
hump, yeah.
like with the last few episodes that we have left, and just certain things that we still gotta like unpack. You know, we'll go more into that in the spoiler section. But I'm just curious how that's gonna lay out, because I agree. Like overall, I think the show is slower paced. But for me, it's totally working for me. But like we still do have a couple hurdles to go through. Thank you. 8 episodes total. Almost didn't see that little 8 down there. It was so tiny. So yeah, we still got a couple other things to get through. So I'm curious how well they deliver that, and if it's not just like rush going into the last few episodes. But all in all, I think this was a stellar episode. Visuals just continue to just be totally fantastic. Just some of the places we go, like Numenor, just remains to just be such a beautiful expansive city. I hope that's a word. It sounds cool, so I'm going with it.
That works.
So yeah, it ain't about the size. Yeah, I don't think I have really anything else spoiler free to say.
There we go. So if you've not seen this week's episode of Rings of Power, tune out and come back when you have. This review will be chilling, waiting in the wings for you. So we'll be right back after this first ad break, and then we're going to get into Middle Earth and talk about it. So we'll be right back. And we're back. So let's see here. Where do we want to start? Well, I'll address some of the chat things here, and I'm not sure. I have no idea about any of this theory and stuff like that.
You confirm, Kirklin?
Kirklin, yeah, you want to read that out?
Yeah,
just for the audio?
that
And then,
was that whole like explanation was new to me. I'd never heard of that story before. I mentioned before, like I'm not the most well read on this,
tree,
so maybe
right. Okay, this is the tree. Yeah, okay.
so maybe I don't know. Maybe it like slipped through my knowledge there, or maybe this is just a brand new thing for the show. I'll have to look into it a little bit more on that. But all in all, it was like a beautiful like visual that they're showing. But yeah, I had never heard of that being explained that way. It's like. It seems like the show is like adding a lot more importance to Mithril, and like Mithril already had like a very high importance, but now it's like, okay, this is something that can like possibly help us win a war, which I mean, other than just being like a super, super valuable resource for like armor and like stuff like that. Obviously that's important in a war, but I feel like it had like a higher purpose, I guess, that like what Gil-galad was pitching on like how
It's very
important it was.
symbolic for them.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not too sure about that. I was kind of surprised, honestly.
Well, I wanted to start there because I was wondering if I was missing something, because I've always known, okay, Nithril and armor, and like you said, like it can win you a war in a way of like, yeah, it like helps you a little bit, but it's not like how fucking bulletproof armor is gonna help us win a war or something like that, right? It's just like an asset you can put on soldiers to help out in battle. But they were making like that's where I was as far as where they say, okay, they're either going to perish or they need this. They're either going to leave the lands or they're going to perish, or they need this to move forward. And they're talking about the light. And for me, it's very interesting because the light is a very, I don't know, almost spiritual, magical thing. And the Nithril is very much, as far as I've always known, is just armory and like a physical thing. So I was not exactly understanding the meshing of how was this going to save them, other than are they going to be attacked by some force, you know?
I mean, I think one thing is we're in a different time where the orcs get fucked up by the sunlight. So I feel like that could be a part of it too, or the Mithril maybe is like even stronger at fighting them off in that way. But yeah, I was taking it that they're saying that there's something more to it, where it was going to, I guess, sustain their immortality just by having its presence, like it has an aura to it, or maybe they can take the power that holds and forge it into something that will make, like they're working on that forge to make something. I don't know exactly what it is, but maybe that maybe the end goal was like they want to get that built so that when they get the mithril, which it sounds like they're kind of setting up Elrond to be go figure that out. Then by the time that forge is ready to go, they'll have the mithril and they can make whatever it is that they need. So yeah, I think there's an air of mystery to it still, but I really liked that explanation. I thought it was cool. I loved that visual as well. The way they like just the coloring, like the contrast that they used for that scene, and how they almost made it like just like an image that
Like the
you're
story
moving around. Yeah,
Yeah.
And there would be like little things like the whip would move around and stuff like that. But it was kind of just like this diorama almost that was they're kind of zooming in on it, moving it around and stuff like that. So I really like that whole sequence, and it's adding this kind of mythos to the mithril, and I'm really enjoying that.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. When I saw that scenery, I'm like, I could take a whole like short film like using this type of art to describe certain battles of like in the future. And I hope that means if we ever get into storytelling mode like this about telling a tale or an urban like legend, they use this type of art again, because I like that. That was like stand still, like you said, it's almost like a 3D model where it's like if you're at an art museum and it's like spinning on its own and stuff like that. So I really liked that aspect.
I feel like they kind of used it a bit already when we got some of those opening battle when we saw like the fell beasts and stuff like that before, right? Because it was kind of like just a frozen frame and you're kind of moving around. So I feel like they've used that a couple times when they're talking about these tales of old. So there's some consistency there, even if the visuals are a bit different on it. I'd have to go back and watch that though, because that was in episode 1, right? So it's been a few weeks since I watched that first scene anyway.
I just wanted to highlight what Matt mentioned in the chat here. He was referring to how like the story of the mithril like being made, especially like the way that Elrond was even talking about it. Like he did mention it being some sort of like a myth, like he didn't say this is like a for fact. So he's pointing out that like it is respectful that they're at least like leaving it open ended, and it's not like a definite like no, this character was here and like this is tying all mithril to this specific moment. And that's definitely like a great observation, because like at the end of the day, if they make mithril have this like spiritual, I don't know, like I don't know, like spiritual tie to it, or like just having a lot more importance to like the elves as well to the dwarves, I don't think that like by the time that like Frodo has his mithril chain vest, it's not like I'm thinking about like, oh, this is very significant because of something that happens in Rings of Power. So definitely good observation there from Matt pointing that out. I agree wholeheartedly.
And I guess I know we're not on that era, but there's still just things in our lives that are like you can't exactly trace the origin point to, right? There's all these stories and stuff, whether that's like a science thing or a religious thing. There's just certain things where they get passed down, and it's like, well, what do you believe in, And
Game of telephone.
Exactly. I like the idea of it being a story, a tale, because it's just it grows upon time, and you won't get that exact answer unless you were there. But where were you, Taylor, on this new aspect of the Nithra, at least in this world, I guess?
I come from a family that believes in the power of rocks and stones and the energies and vibrations associated with it.
You drink your water out of rocks, right?
I do, yeah. So when they started talking about mithril, like providing them with the ability to like save their light of the Eldar, I was like, oh, I am eating this up. Let's go. I had no idea that mithril had this capability, but when we got this fantastic, like you mentioned, like diorama, like 3D kind of like styled set, it was great. And I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a great way to just kind of give even the GA just a basic explanation as to what it's about and what it can do for the elves. So I like that a lot, and I think it's cool that it just we if you're familiar with Lord of the Rings, then you already can touch upon the fact, okay, mithril is just, it saves Frodo's life. It's very, very powerful. The shiny shirt, as it's called. So I think that it's cool to just have it be prominently focused now. And I'm very curious to see how it has like these magical implications, like how it was being described, like the unyielding force of darkness from a Balrog, and the purity and the light of this elf. Like I love that whole narration. That was not quote unquote how they said it, but
No,
I'm
maybe not word
paraphrasing.
for word. But I like because at this point in time they haven't used it yet, right? So it is like this mythos thing, but we as the viewer know that it is powerful to some extent, and maybe it's more powerful than we've been giving it credit for. Maybe Rings of Power is writing some more power into it than is previously in the lore or something like that. But I think that's kind of a fun way to play on it too, that they're just kind of speculating, but we already know that it is some good stuff. I mean, they already feel that too. Just the dwarves
mhm.
knew that, even without the elven stuff, right? The backstory, they knew that it was something special.
Well, it's they're gonna be used for the rings, I imagine, right? That's the
I hadn't thought about it, but
that's the
that makes
plan. I'm
It seems
assuming?
like it, eh? If they're building this big forge and all of a sudden there's like a big focus on this particular thing, I could definitely see that happening.
So you're telling me the elves
Especially 'cause,
rings later
like-
on are made from Nethril? Is that what we're saying?
That's what I'm thinking.
A component of it, because like especially if
Oh,
they're
a component,
highlighting that
okay.
like the Cimmerils
It's like a
is like
spice, you know?
somehow like
Yeah.
attached to this, and like that's such like a valuable thing to certain Noldor elves. So
1/4 cup of Nethril.
Yeah.
How they meld that
Paprika.
down, Well, Kirk, I want
quarter
to ask.
cup, he overpours it. Fuck.
It's too heavy. I want to ask you because we had only got to really talk about him in episode 1. The guy I always remember I forgot the Badwig guy's name. He's the king right now.
Gil-galad.
Gil-galad, yes. So we didn't see him since episode 1. I feel like between the 4 of us, he was kind of a mixed character as far as not the character himself, but maybe just performance, and we weren't sure what to take from him. I'm pretty much on the exact same bandwagon. I said I had no cons. He's not necessarily a con, but that would be the closest to that. I still feel like acting wise, he's like just like lower, but okay, I'll put that aside. I still I feel like even in this times when they're saying, oh, the elves are in danger, we may need to save this. That's why I think it's about the actor's choice, because if Gil-galad is not wrong, and he's like acting in goodwill of like, hey, I'm trying just to save the elves, the actor's portraying it in just such a shady way that it never feels like that. And we already had this moment where he lied to Elrond, right? He told him to go there with the backdoor intentions of already knowing that Nethril could be there, and him just kind of confirming his suspicions. So how are you feeling this character this week? Because I'm kind of feeling the
Yeah.
exact same way we were week 1 for myself.
Yeah, I didn't really like have much to really pull from that first appearance, because like he just didn't do a whole lot. Like he said a couple words here and there. It was mostly just like, man, that guy looks exactly like the actor that they had for like the Peter Jackson one. That's crazy. And then so it's like, okay, I'm excited to get more of him. And then here, definitely I'm a little bit disappointed with his character, and I don't even know if this is just like my own preconceived thoughts on what I thought this character was going to be. Like maybe he is some like shady guy like this. I didn't think he was at all. I just knew him as like the last High King of the Noldor. So here he just seems like he's playing his it's like he belongs in like Game of Thrones. He should be in Westeros. All these little political games he's playing, and like just
Yes.
being sus. Like even like he had that really beautiful moment between Durin and Elrond, and they're like walking away in the woods, and they just have like Gil-galad like watching from his fucking
Looking like Tim from
Orthanc
Andor.
tower. Yeah.
You fucking my wife down there? What's going on?
There's
But-
another character that reminded me of Tim in this, but he's just in my thoughts these
Yeah,
days.
that-
But yeah,
I'm glad you brought that shot. That shot was like, why is he like Michael Myers in the woods right now? It was an odd. It was an
Yeah.
odd choice to me. So
yeah, and so like for me, and again, like maybe I just don't know anything about this character, and like that's fair. I hopefully we'll get more moments with this character that I'll kind of get won over. But he just seems like a bit of a threat for like our heroes right now, which is weird, because I always thought he was just like pure good. I like it's not even like he's like a Sauron sympathizer or something like that. Like maybe he is just one of those rulers that like he
that's what he
thinks
is in this
Sauron.
canon. He's a Sauron
Yeah.
sympathizer.
It feels
He's
bad for him.
misunderstood. You
Yeah.
don't understand.
Every week we're
Galadriel.
pointing at a different character. That's Sauron. Now it's
Yeah.
Yeah,
This guy
so-
is Sauron.
Yeah, like I don't think he's that, but it's just like he thinks he's doing the right moves, but makes him like a weak ruler in that regard, which I don't love, because again, I just thought he was a badass. He's like the last High King of the Noldor. Like he must be a
I'm
real
taking it
badass, right?
More as like a desperate times calls for desperate measures kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? Because he's seen that tree that's clearly a very important tree, and it's
The
messed
venom
up.
tree.
Yeah, the leaves, the roots, and everything are not molding over, but they're just turning evil essentially right in front of his eyes. And he's just up there all day watching these leaves fall on the ground, and they're all nasty. So I don't know. I like it makes sense to me that he
Trees.
would be okay to throw a couple people under the bus to get his way, and maybe he's doing it in a bit of an under the table way as not to give anyone more information than is necessary, and probably not to like make people go into a state of panic. If he is very truthful with everyone about what's going on, then maybe everyone would freak out or try to find their own solutions, but instead he's kind of doing it by moving the chess pieces in private. So I think it works. I do agree with the performance. Like I'm not totally engaged by the character, the look or the acting really. It's just not too captivating, which is too bad. But I think the I think it's intriguing to have like what is supposed to be someone on the good side who is doing things in a bit of a sinister way. But yeah, I don't think it's a Sauron kind of thing. I don't think he's affiliated with him. I don't think he has a Palantir that he's communicating with him in the dark or anything like that.
I think it's honestly just the actor's choice. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Like, just the way he's portraying him. I think he's portraying him too shadily. You know, it was
They have to keep reminding him, like, don't be sketchy. Like,
You're
you know,
good. You're gonna fight
very,
Sauron.
He's like,
Are
am
you
I?
sure I am? Like, no, we're not rewriting them.
Not rewriting this.
Fuck, he's friends with
I
Jeff
just, I just got
Bezos.
some adjustments. Yeah, he's friends
Yeah.
with Bezos.
Yeah.
Anything else on Gil-galad specifically? I was gonna just. I feel like I have a good trajectory where to go next.
Move us along.
I hope
Yeah.
so.
With Adar, this character, because something that I didn't notice last
Who
week's
the fuck
episode.
is Adar?
He's like the evil
The
elf.
father.
Yeah, the father.
Okay.
God.
Not where I thought we were going, but sure.
Well,
See.
like the tie that I missed last week was his armor design. Okay, it was like black and dark, but it actually has like the exact same design that both Elrond and Gil-galad had, like on their robes, which tells me that he must be from Lindon at some point. So I think that Gil-galad probably has like some information about this guy, and like it's probably one of those things where he's just like he hopes everybody forgets, and then he's gonna pop off. And he's like, oh yes, I thought I put that to rest centuries ago. Yeah, like one of those classic lines.
That's not a bad theory that he could have like some tie to this character in like not a shady way, like he meant this to go wrong, but his actions, like maybe he betrayed him or left him for dead or something like that.
Slept with his wife.
Yeah, slept with his wife, something like. No, but I think that could be a good tie because I noticed that about the armor too. So you know what, that's a good shot. I could see that. I can even see them being brothers. I'm not even fucking lying too. They they look similar with dark hair, you know. So
That's
look
true.
out for that.
And like if this elf is significantly, I mean, maybe that's just my theory, but I just took like he was a lot older than like what Arondir was, like when they spoke together, like because he was talking about like when he was a kid, like I remember walking those shores like so much further, you know, a long time ago. I don't know why that was so hard for me to say. So
galaxy.
and like I don't know, he has this like old. I don't want to say like old soul energy around him, but like he kind of is like that. Like it just seems like he's seen a lot of like days, because even like that one particular moment with the orc where he's just like soaking in the sun. He's like, I feel bad for you that you can't feel this the way that I am, but I also feel sad for myself because I know we're going to be losing it. And so like someone that's just been around for not that long, and like again, it's kind of elf scale, so someone that hasn't been around that long is like couple hundred years versus like thousands of years. I'm just so curious about that character because like a dark elf is something I'm not too familiar with. I'm pretty sure it's like canonly they have had instances of that happen before, but I'm not too well versed in this. So this is all like new territory for me, and it's fun. It's exciting. I don't really know much about this. Why the orcs just obsessing about this guy, and particularly his ties to like the rest of the Noldor and Lindon and all this stuff going on.
Well, we kind of got the fan thing now, where that old guy called him Sauron. You know, Sauron.
Well,
I said
he
Sauron.
wasn't very confident about that. Sauron, and he's like, "Oh, well, I'll serve you still."
I think he was. I think he was after. Like he
No,
was,
'cause
no,
he
was
started,
before.
like-
I meant.
Well, because he started off thinking like I pledge my allegiance to Sauron. He's like, "You're Sauron, right?" Like, "Oh, I'll still serve you." Like he just totally fudged himself up.
Oh yeah, but I'm just saying, like I think he 100% thought this guy was Sauron until he got tackled to the ground and stuff like that. Which I think that was good because I know we talk about it and we know that, but for the general audience, there's still like you would probably watch this thinking this guy could be that. So I think that was a smart way for, hey, if you aren't really following much, this is a nip of the bud. Like this character's not Sauron. Even if he works with him, stuff like that, that's not who that's going to be. So I think that was smart to start to establish that.
I feel like they were leaving the door open. Did I read that completely
I think they left the
differently?
door open. I honestly, I think
really?
they've done
I went
that
the
with
other way with
multiple
it.
characters at this point. At least two now that I can think off the top of my head in this episode. So
See, that one to me was a closing the door when it was the turn, and then it's like, oh, well, you know, I would still serve you and stuff like that, because it felt like the character acted out by being called Sauron. So yeah, for me, I took it as that was the closing the door. Oh, this guy's for sure
But it's
not
not
Sauron.
like Adar was like, "What did you call me?" Like, or you know, anything like that. He
He
didn't
choke
seem to
slammed
be-
him to the ground, though. You know,
I
But then he
I
makes
feel
him
like he
do
would have
a
had a line
tribute.
of dialogue.
a tribute. And,
Maybe
that's what you
differently.
call it, a tribute.
yeah, he had to kill the young lad, right?
I don't know if there's a tribute. And that's where I'd say that's the darkest I think we've seen Lord of the Rings on screen, because I don't think there's anything as dark as that in the Peter Jackson stuff. There's some
Yeah.
gross stuff and helps you, but to make like another, like a friend or whatever, peer, colleague, not colleague, but like just someone kill another person to show tribute and stuff
Young
like that.
lad, too.
Yeah. So that was
Catapulting
some
people's
intense stuff.
heads into their home city.
Yeah, it's pretty
is
fucked up,
dark.
actually.
That's the norm,
I guess
though.
it's just because that's just like, oh, it's these orcs taking out innocent people. This is like taking man and making them kill another man. Like it's you
Yeah,
turning
that's
against someone you've probably at least seen grown up, depending how long you've been around and stuff like that. So that's where just the intention. But you're right, flying heads is never a good thing you want to see.
I gotta know where
No.
Kirkland lands on this thing. Then, do you think they deconfirmed Adar as Sauron potential, or where do you think they left that?
I never I don't know. I didn't buy that it was him in the first place, so I'm still in that camp. I don't.
Do you
I
feel like
just-
that scene?
I ain't buying it.
Like, do you feel like that scene was putting it one way or the other,
I mean,
like leaving the door open or closing it completely?
Well, because technically, I don't even know if he killed that kid, right? Because it cut off screen. But I also just think that's like a.
Well, we've
I don't
seen
know.
that
I don't know what
kid.
this is rated.
That kid's
um,
like bumming around. That's the guy that went with Bronwyn's kid to the town, wasn't it?
No, he means after the fact. We didn't
After
see
the
him
fact.
dead on screen yet.
When Adar was
Yeah.
like holding him.
Yeah.
It
We
like
didn't-
cuts to black before he slits his throat.
No
And
kill
that's probably
confirmed.
that's probably just like a rating thing. They didn't want to show that
Yes.
on screen. I would imagine.
I think so,
But
yeah.
like you mentioned, he didn't say for sure like I'm not Sauron or something like that. But I also think that could be maybe his own like power struggle thing. Maybe he thinks that he is like the father of these orcs and he should be like the big bad. So I don't know. Like that's definitely not
Okay, that
uncommon
makes
like
sense.
at all. Like Saruman, right? He's like, no, I'm like I don't serve Sauron. I am the
We're
the Dark Lord.
partners.
We're partner 50-50, right?
Yeah.
No. So yeah, I don't know. It's a big question mark for me just what's going on with this character, but I'm still in that camp that it's like 1% chance that's Sauron. And for me, if like that did go the route that way, I would actually be really bothered by that. I don't know. It just his persona is not what, because Sauron is just so like mysterious and like we don't ever really see him. If I see him like this and he's just like a father to these orcs, I don't love that.
That's
I
fair.
don't-
Whispering sweet nothings to him, like, I wish you could feel the
Yeah,
sun.
give me
but-
that arm.
Yeah, Matt Rass with a big show. I was gonna say that right while Kirkland was talking about like it could be an adjacent to like a power struggle. That's a big thing in Shadow of Mordor, where there is characters like that that are started working with Sauron but kind of branch off on their own. Very much like, I hate to make this comparison, but it's very much like how in Marvel they have like the Nazis and Hydra, right? Where Hydra started as this like thing where it's like, oh yeah, it's with Hitler, but then Red Skull kind of adapts it and takes it by itself and everything like that. So I wouldn't be opposed to that because I liked that element in Shadow of War. So I would be down for that. So. Where I thought you were gonna go, Kirkland was talking about Durin and Elrond when we were talking about the
Durin and
Elrond, yeah, the Nithro and everything
We
like
did
that.
mention them, yes.
All I wanted to say is that I liked everything. I loved the table joke. That was so good because I bought completely into that, and then he was like, "Oh, what is that even like? What was the whole story behind that?" Oh yeah, it's not even a thing. He needed a new table. I love that. I actually thought that there was some sort of ceremony thing that they needed with this stone or whatnot. So good joke. I like that. I like the table scene. And then I actually like that Elrond just kind of admitted and fessed up to everything, but Durin kind of took it with him because he understood that it wasn't Elrond being tricky. It was kind of Elrond getting tricked, so he tricked Durin into it. So I'm interested to see how, whether it's next week or the week after, his conversation goes with the father, because I feel like he won't be as accepting of this proposal. But I liked, again, everything. Durin usually is one of my favorite parts of the show. Elrond I'm still liking enough, but I like their dynamic a lot, and I loved everything about them with this episode. So.
Maybe that was what Gil Galad was really pissed at. He's like, I heard that he didn't actually need that
My
table.
Yeah. Yeah. He does have elf ears, right? So you could hear he just feels like an idiot, like, oh, I thought he was telling me the truth. I gave him this
That's
table
my
for
father's
nothing.
table.
Yeah.
I'm super into the whole. Whenever Durin walks into the screen or on set, like I love it. It's fantastic. I love his character. I love everything that is humor, his anger, his moments. It's great, and his dynamic with Elrond always just captivates me. I'm really absorbed into their relationship. I like it, and I think the cool thing is too with this is that like Durin was I feel like Durin was anticipating Elrond to come up at him with this inquiry about the mithril. I feel like he knew because his father knew, like, you need to go to this meeting and you need to investigate what's going on here because there's more to it than this. It's so much more in depth, and I like that. So him being receptive and seeing that more friendlier side of him and just really rubbing it in, like, the to save all the elves, that's in whose hands. Like,
Yeah.
I loved every second of that. It was great. Yeah, I just think that there's a lot more to explore with their relationship and just how this is gonna unfold with everything there. And just seeing again more elves and dwarf dynamic is great. Seeing Gil-galad talking to him was interesting, and that kind of adds more fuel to the fire as well, where Gil-galad just seemed like a bad guy. And I think you're right, Travis, it's just the acting coming across like iffy again, because at this point I just thought, like, man, like, I feel like he's 2 seconds away from whipping his sword out and cutting Durin's head off on the table. He just
Whoa.
feels so villainous right now.
Like, I wouldn't
So-
go that far, but that would have
But
been
stood a
pretty...
foot tire on the ground, right?
Get him a taller chair. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I'm loving Durin and Elrond. Like, the more they're on screen, I think I'm totally happy with that. Their chemistry is just so fantastic, and I love this dynamic of, like, these two are, like, super close, but, like, the overall feud between, like, elves and dwarves is, like,
Yes.
chaos, but these two are just like the two solids, like, they're still loving each other, and, like, tensions were getting high at that dinner table, right? Like, when he was having his complaints and stuff like that. And, like, Elrond was trying to, like, calm him down, but he also found out, like, he was kind of caught in a lie too. So he kind of felt just, I don't know, betrayed from his own people there. So that was
Race.
so that was definitely an interesting just dynamic with that scene, and I love the table thing. I was totally, like, eating in on it. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. That's really cool. Like, these trees only grow in the in the basement of Khazad-dûm, essentially. So all that stuff was really, really great for me. And yeah, I think you're dead on, Travis. I think Durin, whatever number he is, the older Durin, he's gonna not be too happy with the decision there. But I mean, we need to have some dwarf and elf feuds, right? Because by the time they get to the Council of Elrond, like, they're feuding. So I'm totally fine with this. I don't want to call it like a Cold War situation, but it's just like they're hesitant to trust each other, let alone work with each other.
Well, it was interesting because you get that quick mention from Gil-galad about his group of dwarfs being the most quietest and just kind of, like, keeping to themselves, doing what they do. And so, like, these are the dwarves. These are the dwarves that dig too deep and trigger that one Balrog, right? Because they're the dwarves of Khazad-dûm, is it not? So, maybe
Too
that,
deep
like,
and too greedily they dug.
so I could see that would be interesting kind of thing where maybe they keep digging deeper, trying to get more of that mithril, and then they trigger that Balrog, and then that's why we see that Balrog that looks the same as the Lord of the Rings Balrog, and maybe that's the same Balrog or something like that. But then also maybe it makes sense too why other dwarves are kind of pissed off at the elves, because maybe this dwarf group was okay with them, and then the Balrog fucked them up, and then the other dwarf groups are, like, pissed. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm curious what the fate of the older Durin is gonna be. I think we're gonna see that at some point during the show. I don't think this season, but it's definitely gonna be coming. And I don't know. In my mind, I feel like I just assumed it was, like, Durin's bane that just fucked him up or something. I don't know, because in the trailer we saw a Balrog somewhere. So, and that wasn't the Balrog that we saw in this, like, dream sequence, or it wasn't a dream sequence, it was a retelling of history. So that's going to be coming. And is that when Durin bites I don't know. I think we're a little bit ways away of that, but yeah, if we saw that one Balrog shot in the trailer, I would imagine it's in the season at some point. So
Watch it just be a flashback, though, to fuck with us, like a story,
Or
another
flash
story about
forward.
Balrog. Yeah,
it's like just the Peter Jackson
they redo
fucking
it.
film. Yeah,
Amazon gets sued
the
up
Balrog
ass.
looks identical.
Yeah.
Well, they
Bracer
cut out
group's like, "You can't do
Gandalf and put old Durin in there to replace
Old
him in the
Durin.
fight scene.
Cannot pass.
Yeah, I think I'd be surprised if the scene that we saw in the trailer was them digging too deep and it coming up through the mines. 'Cause I just feel like with how much we only got 3 episodes left, like, are we really gonna go down that route?
Yeah,
Like,
it's a little
I
early.
don't know if we have time for that. So I mean, if they've filmed multiple seasons worth, or are they filming it one at a time? I forget what's the deal. Do we know?
I feel like they did do one season worth because I thought there was rumors that one time they
'Cause
were
they
doing
confirmed
multiple,
like
but
5 seasons, right, or something like
that's
that.
their plan, yeah. But I think it
Yeah.
was just the one season. I
Okay.
think I could be wrong. If anyone knows in chat, let us know.
Right. Well, I mean, that's just a CGI scene anyway, so it's not like
Yeah.
okay, we filmed this thing. But
Mhm.
yeah, I'd be maybe surprised to see the fall of Khazad-dûm in this first season. That would just seem like maybe a bit rushed at this point. But
Yeah.
you guys have pretty much said it all with that sequence. I just wanted to add a couple quotes in there. Of course, Taylor's name. Give me the meat and give it to me raw. Like that's just so much meat. Like those dwarves just love meat, and I
yeah.
love that they love meat. But then in that scene too, I forget the exact context, and this is like paraphrased, but they're talking about working together, and Elrond says that a hardship shared can either be halved or doubled depending on its intent or whatever he says.
Great line.
I really, really liked that line. I thought there was a just I don't know, just clever wordplay. Really, falls off the tongue, but also has like good meaning to it. So, shout out to that, and I think that was pretty much everything I had to say on that sequence. You guys kind of covered it, but I love that scene and maybe everything except for Gil-galad up there in the hill, just watching them from above at the end.
Well, let's take our second ad break and then we'll move on to something else. We'll be right back. And we're back. Unless someone I forgot to ask. Anyone have anything to add on Durin, the elves, the dwarves, everything? We get to move on to something else.
I'll throw a couple more quotes in there. I think this is actually like a Gil-galad quote, but they're talking about, I think this is when Gil-galad's talking to Elrond, and there was a moment I really liked, once again paraphrase, where he's talking about even if hope is mere, it is not meager, and then like my name alluding to the eye of hope is the first to awaken and the last to sleep. I just thought that had a nice imagery to it. So once again, just the writer of this episode was just feeling themselves. They really got some really, really solid lines in there. But yeah, we can move on to something else. I think I want to bring this up, which is that we finally got this other kind of trailer thing that had a lot of speculation, which was these society of like people dressed in white with white hair and white eyes and all that. So we've finally seen that character plus like I guess 3 of other ones up on the hill that kind of went back to presumably Gandalf's falling point from the meteor. So I don't know. I don't know if there's too much to dig into there, but I'm curious what you guys think of that now that we've actually seen it in the show.
The stranger.
What do you think about seeing? Yeah. What did you think about seeing Sauron today? Look
Sauron
at the
in
whole
the white.
Gandalf.
Sauron the white back when he was the White Wizard.
Yeah.
Just make our own canon here. I mean, I have nothing to say. It was the exact same thing that we saw in the trailer, and nothing else happened. So yeah, it was.
Did we see the other people, or did we just see? I thought we just saw the one.
I saw them in a shot or something. I don't know if it was in the
okay.
trailer, but I definitely saw them before. So
But we know
everything
the
here was not
context
new.
Now,
Yeah, we
as
have the
far as
context.
we knew they were looking at some like whole stuff, but we didn't know that's where the falling guide come from, right? So
Yeah, this did like nothing for me. It was just like, oh wow, we're getting an explanation of these people in this episode, and nothing. So yeah, I'm interested in finding out more about them, obviously, but yeah, I thought I was gonna get more of it in this episode.
I guess for me, like the added layer was that they showed that scene again, a little flashback to when he fell and he was in the fire, and then they showed it like empty and burnt out, whatever, and then they were like flashing between that and the moon. So I don't know if they were trying to show that had come from the moon specifically, and I assume Middle Earth just has like one moon, like our Earth does, but I actually don't know about that. It could be a total different Earth solar system.
I think it's just like a moon.
Yeah, so I guess that was the thing as well. But yeah, I don't know. Are these people? I mean, we don't know where they come from. Don't really know who they are.
they're not good. I'll tell you that. They don't go.
Yeah, but they're definitely
that guy's eyebrows. Yeah.
They're definitely in search of this, specifically this thing. I presume they came from somewhere far away, but like as soon as they saw it, they probably started their trek to get there. But yeah, I mean, it's still just riddled with kind of trying to anticipate what's going on there. But
they're looking pretty evil, and evil usually comes from the east. So I would say they came from the east somewhere.
Easterling.
They're not
Evil music,
dressed in the
evil
classic
eyes.
Mordor garbs. Everyone's just black everything, but these guys are super white clothing. But
It's because the moon. They're moon.
because the moon. Yeah, they came
They're
from
the moon. Yeah, exactly. They're just looking for their
Yeah,
father.
the moon
That-
men. Yeah.
That's the guy who crashed. Yeah, hopefully we get more about that. And then this week again, I feel like only got 3 episodes. And I feel like they're just giving us sparing amounts, but we got some stuff with the stranger. Like so, that was some of my favorite stuff of at the opening of this episode. Pretty much the opening is when we got like music and showing their travels and stuff. Just him being
love
outside.
that song that Nori's sang. Yeah.
That's where it felt to me the most like this show's ever felt like Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Ring. Like the trilogy, that's where it just like had the exact same vibe, very whimsical, very just like story fairy tale like. So I liked all that. We didn't get much with him other than again that he's been helping them out. He's learning some language. He's learning some morals, and he was popping off with some fucking ice powers going on in this episode.
Some
So
magic,
again,
yeah.
So again, I am interested that. With the rate we're going, I think it does make me feel a little less that he could be the Balrog because I feel like with only 3 episodes left, there's still more they could do with him. I feel like they're taking baby steps with that character, but I'm open to see what we have like are gonna go to. But I like everything they're doing with the character so far and the mystery behind it.
So I'm curious because I think that's actually very plausible is that he could be because I imagine he's at this point for sure the same member of the group that Gandalf and Saruman and Radagast, all of them are.
The Astari.
So the Astari, yes. So at this point, like, yes, he's still called the Stranger, and even I'm more inclined to thinking like he's Gandalf just because of how they're setting him up. But
Yeah, if you turn the
Really?
subtitles on, it says Gandalf. I was laughing.
No, it's false.
but I would prescribe to what you pitched, Travis. But my counter to that is, could anyone be creating another Balrog? Because I thought only Morgoth was able to do that.
What did I
correct me if
pitch?
I'm wrong. Well, you picked that you pitched that the
he's
stranger
not
would
him?
be
Yeah.
a Balrog, but then who would do
I think
that other than
Kirklin pitched that in the premiere because I was pitching Saruman, but I agreed with Kirkland's pitch, but I said like the longer it takes, 'cause I feel like once it gets a Balrog form, he would be staying in Balrog form, right? So that's my thing of like if it happens, I guess it just feels like we get like 2 more episodes of him just kind of quietly being the stranger, then boom, he's the Balrog. It's like I guess like that might be a little rush. It's kind of like them dig in and find the Balrog. Like the Balrog is a very interesting thing. That's why I am starting to wonder if it is just like a flashback scene of a description of some sort of thing, an occasion with the Balrog, and that could be it. So just the time we're taking, unless the next episode is very heavy on the stranger and we get lots of momentum, then I might be able to change my tune. But most updates we got on the stranger, it's pretty small scenes. It's usually small to the episode. So
I don't expect the strain or that a Balrog would have the ability to use ice powers. That would
I
seem
agree.
like-
Yes.
Well,
would
it
seem
depends
pretty
because like not in this form, but then once they make that transition over, then I think it wouldn't matter anymore. They could be fire and everything like that, right? But in their main form like this, it's they could use their normal magic because they're not corrupted and all that kind of stuff. But Kirkland, how does that work? Like, is Morgoth the only one who can be popping off with Balrogs, just spitting them out?
To my knowledge, there hasn't been like a new Balrog or anything like that. Like they were all just made initially, to my knowledge, and then the battle happened. They all just got fucked up, and then the one that we know of that escaped was Durin's Bane, the one that hid out in Khazad-dûm. Yeah.
I guess that could be a thing they could easily change. Is that there's more out there? That's
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
100%.
I mean, someone new who would be spawning them.
Yeah, and then just with the stranger, this character, that's actually something that has me like the most puzzled because I'm just like, what the fuck is this guy? Like I'm not buying that he's an Astari. He's obviously showing magic, and wizards do that, but I'm just like, okay, they would be making their own like canon when these wizards arrived, which is totally fine. Like they've already changed some things. But if that is the case, please just make it like a brand new character. They don't have to make it Saruman. They don't have to make it Gandalf or anything like that, because that would probably actually deduct some score from overall rating in the series, because like the reason why it was so significant that the Astari arrived, like I think it was 1,000 years into the Third Age, which like we're not even done the Second Age yet. So like we just like that's like so far away. But I digress. It just for me like it would just have too much tie to like the other stuff that goes on. How like they're sent here to be like almost like a last resort, like help out the good guys to defeat Sauron. He's fucking everyone up here, but like that hasn't really happened yet. Like I don't know, like Sauron's just been hiding somewhere. Like why would? And again, maybe I'm just tying it too much to like the purpose on why the wizards came, and maybe this is just well, we don't care about that. We're just going to send a wizard in there to make things spicy. But I don't know. Like this evil group is too intrigued by him. So I'm still thinking he's very much like tied to the forces of Mordor or like some sort of evil thing. Yeah, like I don't know. I don't think he's gonna have a change into a Balrog or anything like that, but that would be an awesome reveal. It's very Diablo 2, which I love that. And again, if it's something like he's a brand new character and it's just this like other Balrog, I have absolutely no issues with that by any means. I'm sure a lot of people are gonna freak out. Oh, that had never happened in the canon before. Well, a lot of things have happened in the show already that had never happened in the canon before. So, but yeah, I'm so fascinated about this character. I'm liking his like relationship with Nori and the other like Harfoots, and how he seems just so a fish out of water. Like he's just trying to like grasp things like. Well, like, what does he say initially? He's like, he's trying to understand, like, the word migration. He says something weird, but, like, she's just explaining, like, the way that they live. It gives us a good chance to, like, further understand the Harfoots on, like, how they actually just survive. And I loved all that backstory stuff. And, yeah, he just seems innocent, but, like, definitely has a lot of power in there, which obviously could go one way or the other. So I'm very, very intrigued about the stranger. And, I mean, we're episode 5, episode 6 next week, and I still don't know what the fuck this character is. So is it going to be, like, a big penultimate reveal? Like, it's like, this is who this guy is? Or, like, what do you guys think?
I'm just curious, like, if it is a character like a Gandalf, like, when they do a name drop, like, does he decide... Or does he like remember that was like his given name or something? Does Nori or another character like just give him the name because they think it fits him well? I'd be curious about something like that. But yeah, I felt like this episode did two things for him. One, they had straight up a line that was like, "You are good," like she just said that like very on the nose. But it also did the thing too where we talked about, well, maybe the most sinister thing he's done so far is kill all these fireflies. But they showed that was like an accident. He didn't understand the concept of death when that happened. So that was clearly not something that he did out of malice. So I don't know. I feel like they're just making him so good that, they could be doing that as a fake out. They could be doing it as he's faking this or something. But I take it that he is just a good guy. And there's not really many other characters that fit for me other than Gandalf. So I'm just running with that theory for the time being. Plus... Of course, the look is kind of there too, so that's kind of what I'm running with. And thinking about the ice powers specifically, that's an interesting thing because I'm thinking like the only other thing I can relate that to in this season so far is when Galadriel and her crew went up high up on that mountaintop and they went to that icy tomb. Now, obviously, that was atop of a snowy mountain, which makes sense why it was cold there. But if that was like ice magic of some sort, and that's related, because there was magic and weird stuff going on there. It was also like that troll and stuff. So I don't know. There could be a relation there. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but just trying to run through all the possibilities. That's one connection I noticed. So I don't know if that means anything to you guys, but...
Well, a big thank you to Matt Rass, who sent in a $5 super chat. What if Saruman the Grey helps this first version, departs, and returns in the Third Age superior? Isatari? Am I saying that right there? Istari.
I think I was misspelling it. He's probably
but just
dead on.
falls to the dark this time. Like I said, I if we go the route of if it is a Gandalf versus Sauron, I'm definitely more in the not Sauron actually. I don't think it's Sauron. I know some people think that Saruman. I think it is something more to do with Saruman because I feel like you can play with a bit more with Gandalf. Now, even in the films, you don't know as much, but I just feel like because he is a character, even in the films, I feel like in the books you know a little less about. You can kind of fill in some stuff and kind of smudge some numbers. So I wouldn't see that out of the realm of possibility. For me, it was just that, like I said in the premiere, where it's just like I think he looks like Christopher Lee. He looks like a young, if you're saying, hey, we got to get an actor that looks like Christopher Lee. And I know people say, well, it's not a prequel to these movies. It's not, but to me, you know what they're kind of doing, right? Like I feel like they're trying to draw some lines to the GA as far as that goes. There's tons of people that think this is just a prequel to it. So, yeah, I wouldn't be completely against that.
That actually does make a lot of sense. I think I'm just so biased to think of Saruman as like just a wholly evil being, but right, he probably built up to that point, and I just don't know his backstory, so that makes sense beyond like what that movie trilogy is giving to me. And so yeah, I never really thought about, well, yeah, if I guess if Gandalf went from Gandalf the Grey to White, Saruman presumably did the same thing. Kirkland, is that correct? Where he wasn't always the
I
white?
thought he was just the white, like when they
Okay.
initially sent him there.
So that that maybe that could be a new Rings of Power change to the lore or something
Yeah,
like that. And that's actually a really cool idea to like, yeah, okay, here's the gray version of Saruman before he converted and whatever it is, like, you know, potentially we get these 5 seasons to lead us to a point to understand why he would be where he is later on. But
Yeah.
even then, I mean, like he just essentially turns at least publicly, I guess I could say, you know, in the events of Fellowship. Like Gandalf obviously thinks he's still a genuinely good guy at that point. So, yeah, there's a lot of interesting things to play with there. But once again, as Travis just alluded to, this is not a prequel made by Peter Jackson and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I don't know. It is still very intriguing, and yeah, I mean that's some good argument from both Travis and Matt there. Now I'm thinking, ooh, what if it is Saruman the Grey? That's a intriguing road to go down.
It'd be definitely something fresh, right? Like that's because I never
fresh.
never heard of that before. Saruman the Grey has a good ring to it as well. I will say too, if it ends up being Gandalf, I hope they at least call him by Mithrandir, because that's what the elves called him, and then it was the men that initially called him Gandalf. Which
Oh no, they'll fall
not
on
even-
Gandalf.
But these are
the
the
man
hard
who
Yeah,
will
they'd be
become
like-
Gandalf the White.
they show like Ian McKellen on screen, it's like
Yeah.
the supercut Boromir.
Gandalf Ian McKellen the White.
Yeah, remember him? Remember
Yeah,
him?
yeah.
Tune in next season.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Taylor,
hey-
anything there?
Oh, yeah.
Well, the Saruman is an interesting play, and I mean Matt's question there, or I guess more like statement, it definitely is intriguing. But when you just look at the Harfoots dealing with this magical being, it just are they trying to create this dynamic based on what we already know through Lord of the Rings, where we know there's a pre-existing relationship here with hobbits and with Gandalf, and that's what I'm associating with this. That's another reason why I suspect it's Gandalf here, because I don't see Saruman having that relationship with the Harfoots. So
Well, couldn't it be like almost the opposite, where Saruman specifically doesn't believe in the hobbits, right? And there could, like, the events of this show could be showing us that.
That's what I
That's
was gonna
true.
say.
That's
That's what
very
I
true.
thought about, because I thought about that too. That quote where he says like, "Oh, the halfling's blinding and stuff." Maybe his experience was like, "Yeah, these guys are just kind of simpletons. Like, I'm never gonna trust them with anything." Like he had this
We
one
already saw that
experience.
they have some weird stuff going on with this migration, how they'll just leave people to die.
Yeah.
And, like, they have some weird things going
Take
on.
their
so
wheels.
we could dig more into that.
that
It's,
was fucked.
I feel like we've been getting not a ton of screen time from those characters in this episode
No.
or in the last couple episodes, so it's hard to say what the trajectory is going to be. And to me, it seems like this migration is going to be the rest of the season, is them going on this long journey, which I'm down for that. I like a good travel sequence, but yeah, that would be an interesting road to go down as well. I'm liking these theories now.
And Matt Rass
Matt,
says, "I'm
going
totally
hard.
fan
Love it.
fictioning." Thank you for the other super chat, Matt. Really appreciate it. Don't worry, we're that's what these conversations are, just fan fictioning, right? Until we get to the end of the season, we go, "Oh, this is what it really was." It's just you know, and I think that is the fun thing with the Stranger. Now, like Kirkland says, if it ends up being a Gandalf stuff, it could hurt some people's enjoyment of what the reveal is, but in the moment it's fun to have this character of like, well, what is and stuff. But that's what they have to do. We saw that literal the Nisril sword and the Fell Beast Narsil sword.
You put an extra letter on there.
Yeah, you know, I usually do that. That's why I failed school. No, I graduated. It's all good. Either that's just a Weta rights. How do you pronounce Weta? Thank you.
Weta Digital,
Yeah.
okay.
Or this is in the world at least. So yeah, we did have that confirmed by the showrunners that is the sword from last week. So
Oh,
there you
cool.
go.
What are Weta rights exactly? Is that
Well,
some
Weta
new term?
Digital is like the special effects house that did all the stuff for
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Which is it's a
And
very
now they're working on a
great-
game. Weta Digital has like a game
True,
division. They're making
yeah.
a Lord of the Rings game. So that's
And again, I feel like it's just this gray area of what can look like and what can't. You know, like
That's
we
what's
talked
so
about the
intriguing,
Balrog,
yeah.
but I don't know.
'Cause, like,
I really,
They
even
changed.
like, yeah. Go ahead.
They changed the wargs like completely. Like they don't look anything like the
No.
wargs from like Fellowship Two Towers. But then you have a Balrog who they showcase the wings a little bit more in here. I don't love that they have wings in there, but anyways, it looks exactly
You
like the
love
Balrog
shitting
from
on
the
the
other
Every
one.
time.
I
Time
I
it
turned to
comes
Shay.
up.
I'm like, they got wings. Just like crush my beer. Like they're ruining Lord of the Rings. No, I'm kidding.
She's
Um,
like, why am I dating this man? I don't care if they have
like,
wings
what?
or not. Yeah.
So yeah, and then the Fell Beast that Matt mentioned as well, because that looked basically identical to like the other rendition of them, right? So
The right's got a whole bunch of weird stuff. Like I know you guys were talking about earlier in the chat of like could Bezos go and buy more of the past stuff, and the same thing. It's like even with Embracer Group, it's weird that they only got like they just own the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit stuff. Dylan informed me this week that they don't actually own any of the TV rights. So they can't actually do TV shows for Lord of the Rings and Hobbit, just film. So it's like it's getting really confusing of who can own what and where can own, like it's just like I'll take the content, sure, whatever. We'll be here to review, but just
the
like
Middle Earth estate, whatever it's called, is a total mess. It's
yeah, Middle
so
Earth
weird.
Enterprises is what it's
Enterprise.
called,
Is it-
and it's just like it's a catastrophe.
Is it all public knowledge though? Like all of their little contracts that they got scribbled up on their scrolls? Because I feel like they could easily just be like, "Hey, you can
do you
use
mean by
these
public
original
knowledge?
designs for, like Balrog, Fellbeast."
Well, I don't think
like,
it's public
certain
knowledge. You mean
characters.
public domain?
No, not public domain, but
Oh.
I just mean like
No, I don't
like,
think so.
not
only
everyone
if we were
knows
in that
everything.
room. I think only if
Yeah.
we were in that room. So I'm like, hey, what can I know?
I mean, it could be some weird thing like the Fell Beast, right? We only saw it as like a freeze frame, right? Like we didn't actually see it
Yeah.
moving, right? Like maybe that's how they get it through. Like you're not
It's
allowed to
big
have a
snake.
flying Fell Beast, but you can like have a fucking diorama image.
But
and
then
that,
what
like,
about the
gets through.
Balrog? Then that's clearly going to be moving around, right? And it looks
they're all
just like
CGI, so maybe that's the kicker.
I don't know if you could do that's weird. Yeah,
I want
I
an
don't know.
explanation from someone.
Yeah.
That's making the show.
Amazon doesn't
So
care. They'll
hard
just
to
sue
know.
someone back, and everything like that.
Counter
but-
sue, get
Yeah,
more
exactly.
money.
No. We can use it. I
Counter
guess.
sue.
Anything else? Nori, Strangers, these segment.
Yeah, I wanted to shout out that I mean we mentioned it before just when we had some Harfoot stuff, but they're really just like differentiating like the Harfoots from the Hobbits, and I think that's totally thumbs up in my book. I was a little bit hesitant on like the Harfoots going into it because I didn't want this to just be an excuse to get Hobbits on screen, and they're totally different than like what the Hobbits of the Shire are. Like just the fact that I forget her name, but she was the one that was like pitching to like take their wheels and just like completely leave them behind, which like I cannot picture like the Hobbits of the Shire doing anything like that. Like they're just so like loving and like happy, but again, this is hard times. Like they're literally just migrating, and like if one of them slows down, or it's slowing down the whole caravan, right? And that could easily just wipe out the whole crew. So definitely a lot of tough decisions there, but everything from their way of life, like their costume designs and like the stuff that they have in their hair, like just they're so different from the Hobbits that I'm familiar with, and I'm loving all of it. I love their themes. Oh my gosh, Bear McCreary or something like that.
Bear
is the-
McCreary.
yeah.
Yeah. Great score
Just
right now.
fantastic. Yeah, I started listening to like the soundtrack, I guess, like just this last week, and Numenorian theme. Oh, it hits so good. And we didn't even talk about the Galadriel fight yet, but like the theme that they had in that sequence, it was awesome. I was totally juicing on all that. So I'm loving the music, and the Harfoots are awesome.
Great.
I think it helps a lot too that Nori and is it Poppy?
Poppy.
Yeah,
Poppy.
that duo is so good too. It's like Durin Elrond is just so great, and then like we have I love that we just have all these different pairings. Like, it's really working for me.
My last point on the Harfoots, just once again, like we got that kind of classic Lord of the Rings zoomed out landscape shot, very homage to I feel like some of those Lord of the Rings movies shots. And even then when we got that shot with them in their caravans and we saw like the mountain chain in the background, and they even went through the gray marshes, which is that what the dead marshes become, are the gray marshes, or is that a separate thing?
I'm
It
not
looked
too
like
sure,
a different spot,
actually.
but I assume that's like an actual huge area like in the real world.
Maybe
Either
you're
way,
right.
like because we saw that mountain chain, so I'm like, well, they must be close-ish somewhat to those dead marshes. So I don't know. I love those zoomed out landscape shots. That's all I want. I would watch an hour of that, like just with a narrator like David Attenborough style, just telling me about this world. So I like
That'd
to see
be-
some more of that stuff.
That'd be really sweet. We get like a Planet Earth documentary, but it's on like Middle Earth, and it's just like
yeah.
giving
Just
us
the Sim- that
information
would be
from
like
like
the
the
Silmarillion. That's how
Silmarillion.
they
Yeah,
could do that.
exactly. Oh, get it done. Narrated by someone like
Get
that.
it done.
I just wanted to touch upon when Nori was grabbing that stick when those wolves were coming at her. Again, it bloody well fooled me because I thought, oh, this is where he gets his staff. And
Wow.
Told you to
not the
take those
case.
steps.
Yeah, every time there's a piece of wood, I'm just thinking, it's a staff, it's a staff.
Was she just gonna like whack it? I don't know exactly what
She's
her
gonna do
plan was.
magic.
She's going to kill her two friends and herself to spare them the pain of being torn
Oh my
apart by the
gosh.
wolves.
That would have been the darkest.
Yeah, no.
Sheesh.
Well, if we're done with that, I got nothing to add on
Buzzkill.
Crickets.
Damn.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I was with you in the premiere when I thought he was grabbing the steak. Not this time. I didn't think the staff was coming. But maybe next episode. But let's take another ad break, and then we'll be right back with some more Rings of Power. So we'll be right back. And we're back. So maybe we should talk about who? Sorry.
Numenor, is that the last topic?
Well, there's two places we haven't talked
Oh.
about yet, but we can go to Numenor now. Yeah, that ending. I know I'm jumping right to the end, but them getting on the boats, the music, them all being in awe of Galadriel walking up.
Oh.
That's where it's like, man, I can't wait for next week. And I've liked the show, and every week I've seemed to like it better. But I think that was the first time I was really like, okay, I'm really gonna be anticipating next week of them going there, going to Middle Earth, stuff like that. So I loved that build up. Poor Isildur found his way onto that boat, but his dad just demotes him right away, because he kind of sees through his bullshit.
Shit sweeper, basically.
Yeah.
That's what he's
So,
done.
but yeah, I really liked everything. Kirklin already alluded to the fight we got with Galadriel, and that was very well choreographed, done, score. So I think most of the stuff here was all 2 thumbs up for me in Numenor.
Yeah, that scene on the boat at the end, I was like, Kirklin is just creaming right
Oh
now.
yeah,
Seeing
I was.
this, like,
I was
this is-
sweaty. I was
this
like,
is
oh my gosh,
exactly
Shay.
what
Oh my
he
god,
His
this is
living
crazy.
room with his own helmet, just
It's the queen. I'm like bowing to my TV, basically. She's not a queen, the lady.
Yeah, the score in that scene in particular, like, oh, I was feeling emotional there. But yeah, no, that training scene I thought was so much fun, just to like see her skill. I like the kind of play of like at the very end when he does, I don't know if he really drew blood. I mean, he must have a little bit. He at least cut through her dress thing a little bit there. But yeah, I love that whole sequence. I thought that was great. She's just a lot of fun. And we really saw a different side of her where I feel like she's been a little bit demoted in a couple episodes as she's in a new place, discovering what's going on. But yeah, I mean, coming out in that armor and all that stuff, great character, so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, this was the moment I've been waiting for. It was on the trailer, but like it hit so much harder just having like the score come in and like just the build up, like the fact that this was at the end of just an awesome episode. I was loving all this stuff, and really I liked basically everything in Numenor this week. Hallbrand was a character that I was like on and off with him. I feel like I liked him at one particular point, and then I liked him less, and then now I'm back on like, oh, I'm liking this character a little bit more now, especially now that he's like, the more he's on screen, I'm like, okay, there's no way he's Sauron now. Like I am totally not in that. Like I feel like I was at like,
no way.
I think there's no way. Just the way that they're portraying him, the fact that he
Really?
has these like, it seems like he has these like internal battles with himself. It's again very very much paralleling like Aragorn's own struggles of like, oh, do I have enough to be king here? Or it's like the what does Aragorn say? He's like the evil that was in like Isildur's, like that sort of thing that like took Isildur, like that's still in me, so I'm not worthy of being a king.
His
And it
blood
seems like
runs
he
through
kind of
my
has that as well, because he's saying that like evil men are like basically the people that I'm cut from, and then Galadriel's like, well, that's them, that's not you, and like they have this great dialogue here. But the character overall, I'm really really thinking that he's not gonna like, yeah, I definitely like less than 2%. I think he's Sauron. He could still have some like sus plan of his own, but
Well,
I don't think it's going to be this thing where he's leaving Numenor. Last time I was speculating if he's gonna, or we were speculating if he's gonna stick around and be whispering into Pharazôn's ear or something like that. That's what Anatar, Sauron's human or elf form, kind of was doing. So I don't think that's the case now.
Unless he goes back, after the war. But yeah, you're right.
mean,
he
it
is leaving. I just thought it was. I do think this was the best episode. I think the Galadriel and scene of him just talking about going back and what motivates Galadriel. I think that was her best scene in the series, his best scene. But hers just by far, 'cause she's just controlling that of like, why won't you stop? Just pretty much because I can't. She's just so like rage filled right now that she's willing to kind of take anything down. But I guess luckily for her, she's found an army that's willing to help her out do this suicide mission. But there was that one moment after the big fight where he like took that sword and like switched, like he did something, like he like kicked it up to himself, and she just walked up and said like, "Oh, I didn't know, I never saw Smith Aid do that before." And they played like very like mysterious, like non-trustworthy music in that moment, and the beat was just, she walked away and he was just very just serious. So that's where I'm still not on the 100% it's not him, because they had some very odd, just random kind of shady scene going on. It's like, why would you even have this in here, because what else would she be alluding to? So
Yeah.
I'm still I'm not sold that he is Sauron, but I'm not 100% off it yet, because that was there was a very strange thing to do, and it came right after he was like building them the weapons and stuff like a Sauron would, like being as. So I don't know. It was a weird beat if it leads to nothing.
But like if it does go that route, like I said, a less than 2% chance. If he is Sauron, I think this is like a couple points off my entire rating of the show, because just like those moments of him like showing some human side of himself and like
He's
being a
deceiver.
human, I'm like, no, there's no way that's, and like Sauron would just be like playing that to his advantage. Like he just seemed like so in his, like so vulnerable in that moment. So yeah, again,
How do you know he's not
we'll wait to
using
see.
that to play to his advantage, though?
He could be.
You know?
He could
That's the
be.
thing.
Yeah.
They just want you
I'm-
to
I'm
see
really
what
sad.
they want you to see.
The
so
greatest trick the devil pulled, Kirklin.
Maybe he's just going to make some more Balrogs. That's why he's going over.
The last episode, I was gonna be in tears on the review. I'm like, all my predictions were wrong.
That
I give
guy's
up on Tolkien's
Gandalf.
world. Yeah.
He's Sauron. They fight in the finale.
Kill Gallad with Sauron the whole time.
Yeah.
The most
My
sus guy.
brother Sauron, and just like they completely went everything canon. It's like, oh boy.
Oof.
A couple points, yeah, for me on Halbrand. I feel like the way they set up his backstory, and of course everything, he could be lying, but I feel like they'd be going too far now of he's lying, but then they're also just lying to us as the audience in terms of like what's going on, and then they've just been doing that for too long at this point for that to be a good decision. Of course, many screenwriters have made these mistakes in the past and things like that. But I don't know. I think if his backstory is truthful, it doesn't really make any sense for what Sauron would be. So that's kind of my point there. But man, I got to say, they really, that shot right at the end, he's got his armor on, he's on a horse, his hair's looking clean for once. They're really trying to make you think of Aragorn, I felt like. So I don't know. I don't think I still don't care for that side of it, where I feel like they're just going down that route again of like just trying to copy the Aragorn story. So that's not working for me as much. And honestly, like I loved Galadriel in this episode. That scene that you mentioned, Travis, of them talking, I actually thought the writing was like the weakest there in the whole episode. So that scene like didn't hit for me tremendously. So I think I'm just not a Halbrand guy. So I hope to get turned, but we're on episode 5 and there's very little that I want to see from him. So yeah, it's just not working for me so much. And then I think outside of Galadriel too, there's a couple other things with the Numenor sequence that was probably the weaker part of the episode for me, where I just don't know what they're doing with Eärien, Isildur's sister. I just don't really know what we're building up towards there. I don't feel like that like had a conclusive ending, so obviously we're gonna still get more of her and that other. Well, did that guy die? The other guy, like that when the boat blew up?
No, he
No,
was
he
rescued.
saved him. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't.
That's what
I
got him back
must
in
have
his
looked
good
away or something.
graces to be there, because he even says like, "You could have left me,"
Mhm.
but he saved me and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Farazan's son too. That's who
Yeah.
that was revealed to be.
Oh,
Yeah,
right, yeah.
I actually thought in that argument they were gonna. I know Kirkland doesn't want this either, but I thought that's when they're gonna get it on, because they're getting really close and they're yelling very passionately, and that usually leads to something. So I'm gonna still say this: if he's
Who?
not Sauron, Galadriel and Halbrand.
Oh,
I
Yeah.
thought you were
Like
thinking
on
of
the boat?
Isildur and the other guy.
yeah, that too.
That's what I thought you were talking about too. I'm like, dude,
While
the boat was on
While
fire.
the
in that
fire
moment.
is going. I got one last wish. You're like, we can escape. Like we don't have. No, I don't.
You're
I've always
talking
wanted to
about that-
die during sex. Like
But you mentioned the Galadriel and
yes, just because they were
Halbrand's
alone,
moment
it was just
at
in
the end though, like on the boat.
No, in the middle when they're arguing about trying to like you should go fight and stuff, because they were
Definitely very
alone.
passionate right
Yes,
there.
it's very passionate. We've seen it happen in many things before.
You're
Where
banging this
passion makes
drum.
that. So I think if he's not a bad guy, he's gonna be banging some drums. So that's what I'm saying. Because they're doing too many like looks at each other too. Still,
It's
so.
not happening. It's not. That's the one I'm 100% putting all my chips on. I'm gonna be torn if
That's
that is
fine.
the case. But
You
like,
can be 100% wrong, but
I could be 100%.
just all I'm saying is
'cause
one night stand. I'm not saying they're getting married. So I'm
that's
just saying
not
one
happening.
passionate.
They're not even
night.
getting a kiss. They're not even touching lips or anything.
I don't know why you're so opposed to why you think it's happening.
It's just not
after,
happening. I'm
after a
telling you.
battle and stuff like
Kirklin
that.
told you
She's
so.
gonna make
right here.
Celeborn watch. If she kisses him.
Celeborn, where is
Celeborn,
me?
Hold on.
He's like, Galadriel, I'm here. Finally. It's funny though, because at the end, like,
Fuck my wife.
because I don't even think Shay's seen all the episodes. She just like watched like here and there with me. So like in the moment, she jumps in, sees these two good-looking characters on screen together, Halbrand and Galadriel, and she's like, oh, like, yeah, that's the couple right there, you know. And I'm
It's
like,
gonna
no,
happen.
I'm like, hard no, like, no, Shay, don't say that. And then at
Why
the
does
end,
it
she's
matter
like,
if it happens?
she's like, they shared a look. And then I'm like, oh, what? And then I like missed it, rewound it. I'm like, no, that was a friendly wink. There's no way
it's
that's
not a friendly look. Why does
Oh,
it matter
is.
if they hook up together once? It doesn't change anything. She can hook up
Because
with some
elves, the only
man.
time elves have coitus is to actually reproduce. They don't just do it for fun. They're like other
Fucking
mammals.
lame.
out there.
On
I
Travis's
know.
headcanon.
Boring.
Yeah, no. Well, they're gonna change it up. You know, they've already
And
changed
like,
enough.
even
things.
if they were just slapping cheeks and like having fun like that, Celeborn's my man. You know, he's Galadriel's mate. There,
That happened
my,
with
my
but,
headcanon.
It already mattered. It happened once in the Jackson trilogy. Remember, Gandalf
Good.
and Galadriel were doing stuff.
I didn't
so.
seen that.
They happened in the Hobbits, so that's our. Things have changed in the past before. So
Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
Sorry, what is the name of the guy that was like disregarding his past? The Aragorn 2 or like
Halbrand.
0.5?
Hollow?
Halbrand.
Is it just Hall or Hollow?
I'll type it out. I'll type it out for you.
Halbrand.
Hallbrand.
Hallbrand.
Okay, I thought it was Holobrand like you, Travis. I was
Hollow.
Give me some of those
sure.
cough drops. Give me the Hall.
It's a pretty
brand.
hollow
Halbrand.
performance. So
Which brand are you looking for?
Hall
Halls.
brand, the one that fucks Galadriel.
I'm liking his character more now, seeing him just kind of like rise to the occasion, just take up his arms, and seeing him do that little stunt with the sword flipping up. I like grabbed Madison's wrist. I was like, oh my god, this is cool. Like it was very invigorating.
grabbed her
to see him do
wrist.
that.
What?
Yeah, grabbed her wrist, like panicked, like whoa,
For
I wasn't
that.
expecting that.
Whoa!
like, don't
look what
touch me.
Halbrand just did. Did you see that? just sword up to his fingers.
But yeah, I'm curious to see more and more what's gonna happen with this character, because to him it was just he's done all these horrible things to get out of this place and leave, and I'm curious to see what's gonna happen when he returns and the orcs see him, when like Adar sees him.
We've
like,
been looking for you, Halbrand.
Yeah.
It's like Shadow of War.
where you been?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
got me
when
last
the
time.
orcs find you after you kill them once. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you
Thought
got
I
rid
was
of me.
dead, Halbrand. I got a hook now, and I'm gonna stick it in you.
Well, that's
Stuck
great.
you like a pig.
But yeah, him and then Galadriel as well. Like I really do like Galadriel, and I like the elves a lot in this show, but maybe something I'm just not used to in comparison to Lord of the Rings. It's just how much more emotional they are and expressionative in their emotions. I think that's just it's caught me off guard, and I like it because maybe because I like human characters in Lord of the Rings, and I like seeing the elves express this more human side to them a little bit. But then at the same time, it's a little bit of a takeaway because it's not elf-like. When I see Galadriel always
Really?
like smiling and stuff, when she cried in that conversation with Halbrand, or not cried, but teared up, I love that because I thought, okay,
cried.
she's really hit hard, and this is very fitting here to strike that emotion, talking about her brother and Sauron and everything. But other moments where she's just smiling and she's doing like little training sessions, I don't feel like that would really be her, because this is serious life or death what they're going up against, they've never faced before, and I feel like this is very it's serious, and she shouldn't be taking it lightly. She should reinforce that with them, but maybe that's too dark of a tone that they don't want to go with.
You're sounding like me 2 episodes, Taylor.
she's
That was
not
my thoughts on
perfect.
Galadriel. Yeah.
It's so weird you say, because you're saying compared to the other elves I've seen, you have Legolas who's smiling with Gimli in the middle of battles.
That
Counting.
develops. though.
box?
That
It doesn't-
develops.
but this is her developing. She wasn't like that a couple episodes ago, and now she's smiling because she's just like, yeah, she has people. You had Arwen,
True,
who
but
acts
she doesn't
very
have-
unelf-like in that.
She doesn't
movie.
have that connection with these random like young lads though at this
But I
point.
think
It's
she's
just like
get-
she got
she's-
her army and she's
She's
smiling
getting
and happy.
excited by the fact she's training these youngins to like go fight in battle.
She didn't
like
train.
has
She was
been.
like
She
5-minute
is.
session.
She's testing them and stuff like that. that. And
Like, it's already-
Elrond's yelling all the time in Lord of the Rings, and whatever fucking Evangeline Lilly is in the Hobbits. Like, I feel like they're pretty
Elrond makes sense
emotional.
because we can see that there's a lot of history with him and Durin. So I let that pass.
No,
but when
I meant Elrond in the movies. So I just feel
oh,
like
but that yeah.
I just
well,
think the elves we get exposed to are more emotional than what they're described as, and that's what makes those ones special. You know.
Yeah, I also feel like I've really bought into like this is a fiery Galadriel. Like she's already stated like she's just pissed off. Like she just wants to go to war and like just fuck people up. And I think this type of behavior
Orcs up. Sean.
yeah, orcs. Sorry, I'm taking
Shakes
out
the whole
Numenor.
army
Yeah,
there. We've killed the orcs. Okay, now
I'm
Sauron.
Sauron.
they're like, they killed your brother. Yes, they were a part of it as well.
You're right. Yes, good catch. The orcs. She wants to go fuck up. So
Big twist,
I
she's
take it
Sauron.
like she's just getting ready for war, and like yeah, she's just feeding off like this youthful potential of what these men are, and yeah, it's
Don't
just
describe it
fun.
like that. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna tell you when the Hellbrun happens.
Yeah, I
I
see
pray that
what
day never
you-
comes.
I see what you mean, Taylor. I feel like Arondir in particular, I felt like has been a very just cold, emotionless guy for the most part. But then even in this episode, when he was talking to Bronwyn, he like raised his voice at one point. I'm like, whoa, Arondir, this is a whole new guy here. But ultimately, I think it's just like, I don't know, if we want them to be just emotionless, like let's just put a cardboard cutout there and like give them a little electronic
wrong.
moving mouth, you know. Like I'd rather have someone doing a performance than just like
Yeah.
a cold person. But I see what you mean in a way.
Well, speaking of do we have anything else to add on Galadriel? All this because I think Arondir's crew, the little bit we got, is the last thing. So anything
Right,
else
yeah.
in Numenor? Going once.
Looks good in her
going
armor.
twice. She
Absolutely.
does. They all look good.
It's great.
I was
armor,
expecting that to be like an elvish armor, and then they just had this Numenor,
through.
elven armor. I mean, I guess that would make sense though, because the elves were there at one point in time. Maybe it's just this old. It's probably her set actually, 'cause she's probably been there before. She's an old lady.
She just dug it in the ground. kinda
Carry
raised
it
Could be.
for a
it
while.
back.
I'm gonna say
'Cause
it's
she-
not hers. So I'm not gonna
Because it
say.
seemed like she had been there before, right, when she first arrived at the island. Or
I'm
am I
not saying you're wrong
misremembering?
there. I just don't think she would have kept the armor there. That's my. I don't think she like has a
No.
little cubby
Doesn't
somewhere
seem
with
like
it.
it. Yeah, not a great
My
place to
number
leave
is
it.
258.
Just go to the post
8.
office.
Yeah.
Haven't seen that
Post
for
office
100
box.
years.
Oh, sorry, we had to send that off. There's a policy. But
Sauron took
anyways,
it.
so just like you took your brother, we're closed. So
That's why she brought down Numenor.
yeah. So Arondir, yeah. So we kind of touched upon the one half the people where they decided, hey, either we can stay here and fight or we can join them. We talked about what happened there, bad things going on there. Must be like an idiot, like, oh, let's go with this old guy who says we should just join Sauron. And now it's looking real bad for you. So a bunch of fucking idiots. But then Arondir, very little in this episode, just as far as like some more connecting with the child that may or may not be his. And I like that little conversation about the bow. I liked him butting heads with the is Bran or Braun or Bronwyn. I like him butting heads with her because this is what I worried about when the premieres. It was just gonna be very, Aragorn and like Arwen, a very lovey-dovey, very long-lost love. And I like that it's not that. Their love hasn't really been touched upon since then. So now if they touch upon it in the future, I'll be more welcoming to it. I just like they had different mindsets. We got some stuff on that sword. So this was very all small stuff, but I'm liking it. I'm looking very forward to they look at this tower and they got this plan. I can't wait for these orcs to fucking invade and we're going to get like maybe like a mini Helm's Deep battle here. I don't know how big we're getting in season 1 with battles, but we are doing it like they're going to hold the wall against these orcs coming, so I'm looking very forward to what happens. So I liked everything here again. So no one else did. So that's the end of the episode.
I legitimately have nothing to add on that. Like,
Yeah.
it was fine. I don't think I have any like major pros or major cons, but it happened.
Yeah, I like the one between Theo, I think is the young lad's name
got
with
it.
the sword, and Arondir there, and he was just. It's so funny because in this moment,
not a sword. I see which sword you're talking about. Okay.
yeah, I was waiting
Swords
for
all over
a
the
name
place.
drop there when Arondir had it, and he's like, I know what this is. I'm like, he's gonna say it's a Morgul blade. It's the first one, but it didn't.
Gandalf's sword.
It's Gandalf's sword.
Somehow Sauron has
Yeah.
returned.
It's so funny though when like Theo was just like freaking out. I just could not I could not not think about the Helm's Deep scene when like Legus is just like they're all gonna die.
100%.
I will die
when
as
they're
one
having
of
that
them.
conversation, she's like,
Yeah.
we're all gonna get, we're like, whatever
exactly
was
what it
this
felt like.
variation of that conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, but I like the spin of it. It's like half of them left. Well, it's like, but like half of them stayed. Like just focus on that. And, like that means something here. And just that whole dialogue really worked for me. It was all good stuff. And I mean, we know a little bit more about what this blade is. It's definitely Adar's goal here. Adar's got to hold this sword at some point, right? He's got to be popping off with it for like a brief moment, or is that
He'll
not
shoot
gonna
it up
happen?
in his wrist a little bit, in his veins, and like ignite the blade.
Jesus.
That's how you activate
Ignite it. And he turns into a Balrog.
Like, shoot it up into his. Yeah, I don't know.
It's a syringe.
I think it will have to be used at some point. At some
Yeah.
point. So.
I did love that moment when the old guy was leaving. He's like, Theo, come on with me.
son.
Yeah, we're leaving. Fuck, I'm glad Theo didn't go. He would have
Video
it would have been him
Fuck.
getting his fucking throat slit.
I did think he went. Like when
100%.
they showed up when Adar was in front of him, I was looking in the crowd like, okay, where's Theo? Because he totally went with them, right? But no, yeah, he stayed behind and shooting arrows. Very interesting. I guess it's just a relic, so I guess it's not of any real concern. But just this was the fortress that the elves used. I just thought it was kind of funny how conveniently there was just this carving of Sauron there with the Morgoth blade. So
It's
very
not a Morgoth
convenient.
Behind these vines, look at that.
Yeah, I know.
the whole
I've seen this
time.
before. It's like how do we not see this?
Yeah, there's like hundreds of people in this small tower. You'd think someone would have
Yeah.
worked there, but apparently not.
Anything else for this episode this week?
Sure.
I will just say I feel like Theo did reveal that blade pretty quick. I
Yeah,
was
he
expecting it
did.
to be a little bit more hidden, but he's like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
I got something to show you. Like, come
Right,
look
it's
at
like-
come look at my drawings, like
Dire
an extra
straits right
moment."
now. Things are. They need any tool they could possibly have at this
The
point.
writers are like, fuck,
That's
it's episode
true.
5. We're running out of time. I agree with you. Like, I agree that it was. I thought there'd be a bit more build to that. And I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing. I need to wait and see how it's handled the next few episodes. But I was surprised when she's like, here, I found this. And Rondir's like, what the fuck's going on? Like, why do you have this, my son? Like, what did you, I should have stuck around a bit more, you know?
It's
So.
less than half of what I hoped for.
I would have loved if that was the actual line. What the fuck is this?
Rondir runs. Your son's
They almost
fucking
said-
nuts.
Just throws it down the canyon.
Yeah.
They almost said shit here, right? That would have ruined it for
I'm
you,
getting
Travis.
I'm
2
getting
nights
a
in
week
row.
of my canon shows between Star Wars and Lord of the Rings just saying swear words that are to us, and I still don't like it here either. I got cut off, but I just don't
Wait,
like
shit?
it.
You have a problem with shit as a?
Yeah, I don't like.
hates that word.
My
It's very
point was
offensive.
I like. Here's my expression, Dylan. Where in
Poop and
Star
crap
Wars for
over
shit, in shit and poop in Star Wars, sometimes that has insult. They use like bantha fodder, right? I like when they take terms that we would use, but they have their own spin on what they'd use in Star Wars world. The same thing with Lord
But
of the Rings.
everyone
So,
shits, Travis. No matter
but that
what.
it shouldn't be
galaxy.
shits. It shouldn't be shits in Star Wars, and it shouldn't be shits here, in my opinion. I feel like to me, when Doran's about to say shit,
But
it
at
feels
that point,
too
like, wouldn't they
modernized.
why wouldn't they just have like another word for table then, another word for like saying hello? Like,
For me,
why,
it's
why do
specifically
you
the
cut, why do you
swear
cut it off?
words.
Yeah, why do you cut it off at swear words?
Because it feels too modern to me. It just feels like, and this one wasn't as bad. The Stars one was very egregious this week. But this one for me, yeah, I just not a fan of it. You know, and like same thing we talk about with Star Wars when someone says hell. It's like, well, they've never referred to there being a devil or a god and stuff like that in Star Wars. So it's a very strange pull. So yeah, I just don't, and it just feels like. It's not actually needed either. I don't think Star Wars needs to swear. I don't think Lord of the Rings needs to swear. And they didn't, but it just, I don't know. It's like we get what you're going for. So yeah,
Watch
don't
it.
like it.
I was just say, watch it in a different language and put English subtitles on. That way, it loosens the blow.
No, that sounds
Maybe
terrible.
he was gonna say shiitake mushrooms, the class.
Yeah.
Wouldn't like that
Takes-
either.
Takes forever for an elf
Why?
to
There's
shiitake
meat.
mushroom.
You know, there's menus. Why can't there be shiitake?
shiitake,
mushrooms?
shiitake mushrooms back on the
potatoes.
menus, boys.
Does the
But
menu bother you in comparison to shit?
I said why it doesn't bother me, you know. So
We
because I
went
feel
there,
like
yeah.
shit is like that is a slang term for feces. That's what it is. Now we grow older and we say it a bunch and stuff like that, but usually it's just poo, right? So To me, it's a slang term. That's why. It's,
What about in like House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones? Because they say shit and fuck and all that stuff all the time.
And here's my thing, though. The reason, not because from episode 1, and that would be chapter 1 of that book, it was established in that world. If Star Wars grew up the way, then I'd be fine with it. Like Blade Runner,
I
that
see.
has more stuff where it is a bit more
So,
mature and stuff.
You
so.
say it's like it's a modern term, but Googling the word shit first appeared 1,000 years ago to Old Norse. So I
10,000
mean,
years
Oh.
ago. I was there when they first said it.
What did you
Yeah.
say? Did you say 1,000
the ring
years
was
ago?
formed.
1,000 years ago. Yeah, that's
Okay,
what,
but this
the
looks like
second
it was
age.
older than 1,000 years ago. And Star Wars is a galaxy in a long, long, long time far
Well, not
away.
talking
Yeah,
Star
it's in
Wars.
the past.
No, I'm talking about
talking
this too.
Lord of
You
the
think
Rings.
this is just 1,000 years ago?
But
Is
it's
this
not a
happening
modern
in-
term. 1,000
What?
years is that's an age.
But to me, it feels like more of a modern term. You know, there wasn't much media with it popping up back then. That's why this stuff was taboo to say in the fucking 70s. Kids would get their ass beaten with a fucking ruler if you just said damn. So that's where it's
Jive
like,
turkey.
yeah, exactly. It's just like, so now it's just been accepted that shit's a bit more you could say on cable TV. So yeah, just don't like it. It's a preference thing. It's
That's
like
fair.
food, you know.
That's fair.
It's all good.
Thanks for
It's all good.
sharing.
Yeah, I just
See,
wanted
no,
to
it's
dig
not
in.
fair because I already explained it to Taylor and he's still grilling me on it. You know,
He'll
So-
Not to
grill you
me
on it
though.
next week.
I need to
yeah, Dylan's fine to ask, but we just talked
We'll
about
be
this.
back
To be fair,
next
you
week.
probably
24
you,
hours
we
ago.
probably had this exact conversation 3 years ago on the cast, and I just completely
Yeah.
forget.
We'll talk about it again in the future when Sauron's like,
3
give
years
me
from
this shit.
The Balrog, you little shit.
yeah, and Galadriel before they goes, let's fucking go, and they just charge. It's just like, what a...
Grab yourself.
What, yeah. Grab a go. So, the rock comes out. Akuma
Oh my
Shente.
god,
It's just
he's
like,
a Balrog. Like no CGI, just
Yeah.
like painted red.
it's like the end game scene, but it's just a bunch of famous celebrities in the final battle of Rings of Power. Because Amazon's like, yeah.
They say.
Akuma Shente. Akuma Shente. There you
It means
go.
something different than what I said.
Yeah, that it
Means
means
shit.
shithead. yeah. All right, let's end this. We're getting loopy, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back next week for episode 6 of Rings of Power. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you to the live chat joining us, and a big thank you to Matt Rass for sending some super chats. We very much appreciate that, sir. So thank you for stopping by and listening to this. And you, when you hear from us next time, it will not be boring. Boil 'em, mash 'em, stick 'em in a stew.
Potato.